Today I'm sharing with you some plays that you can use to score more goals in NHL 24. And this is not your typical how to score video, as I'm more so covering in-game scenarios that you can look for to turn into scoring chances for you. For this video, I have 3 main plays that I'm going to be sharing with you, and then I have 7 smaller tips and tricks, I guess. So let's jump into play number 1. This is probably my favorite of the bunch. I'll show you a couple of clips of it and then talk about what you should be looking for. So to score this goal, you want to look for a situation where you're entering the zone and 2 of your players are skating up. After the blue line, you want to do a little bit of a stop up or a cut to the middle to give your other players the time to skate further up. This is surprisingly difficult for many people to defend. And if they react to the puck way too much, then best case scenario, you just have a 2-on-0 in front of the net. And if this happens, the rest is easy. Just pass it up to your winger, pass it across backdoor, and it's a goal. Now, usually it's not this clear of a 2-on-0, so if there's defenders nearby, what I really like to do is throw a saucer to the outside of the winger, so he picks it up on the outside and then is able to pass it across. But that's more of an advanced thing, so for starters, normal passes should work most of the time as well. Let's move on to play number 2. So this is something a lot of people already go for off the rush, but I'm telling you, this works off the cycle very well as well. So the idea of this goal is very simple. You just want to make one horizontal pass to make the goalie move out of the way and then just shoot it back the other way. This goal also works even better with the use of saucer passes, as your opponents are not going to be even considering that player a threat in these situations. And then all of the sudden they just get hit with a bang saucer in the middle and it's a goal every time basically. Let's move on to play number 3, and this one is kind of similar to play number 2 actually. So this play usually starts with a pass from the point to a winger. Now this play itself is something I've been using since NHL 21. But this year, the goalies react in a very weird way. So you actually have to shoot it short side. This used to work far side, exactly like goal number 2 I was showing you. But in this NHL, if you see a situation where you pass it to the winger and your winger's momentum is away from the net, this is important. If your winger is skating away from the net, the goalie will overreact to the far side shot. And in this case, you should be shooting short side instead. So a good rule of thumb, if your player is skating across, it's like play number 2 where you should be shooting far side. But if your player is skating away from the net, then you should be shooting short side, usually at least. Just try not to be me and pick the right corner instead of what I did in JWC Game 3 in the last minute. Wrong corner. What the hell? Now looking back at the clip, my player is actually skating across, not away from the net. So according to my own rules, I should be shooting far side. Alright, but that was our 3 main plays that I wanted to share with you. Now I have 7 or 8, depending on how you want to count it, little tips and tricks that you can use to score more. So first of all, if you're ever on a 2-on-1, you want to try to pass it as early or as late as possible. If you ever see the passing lane is open very early, just pass it across. Usually you want to shoot far side, or you can hold the pass until the very end and pass it right in front of the goalie and then just tap it in. For this option, what you want to do is have the puck on your forehand or backhand, depending on your player's handedness, and then switch it to the other side right before you pass it, just to give you that little bit of extra to pass it around the defender. Another thing I like to do on a 2-on-1 is the 5-hole goal. Most people when defending a 2-on-1 or a similar situation are gonna just try to defend the passing lane, and you can almost every time go for this 5-hole goal. So the 5-hole goal is something I would recommend you to learn. I have a YouTube short explaining how to do it, so I'll leave that linked in the description if you want to check that out. Another thing you can do if the opponent is just playing the pass is just decide that you're on a breakaway now. I don't really have a proper clip of this because I rarely do it, but you can surprisingly often, even from the zone entry, just ignore the defenders and take it as a breakaway basically. This works surprisingly well even against good players because, I mean, the play itself is very easy to defend, so for that reason, they're not gonna expect you to do it, right? Because the play itself is kind of stupid, you know? Next up, we have 4 goals that I'm just gonna show you. These are not really like plays, these are just goals that I like to go for as well. So first we have this toe drag from the side of the net. This one's very effective. You wanna do a little bit of a stop up before doing it, so you get this different toe drag animation on it. In this one, it's just very hard to read where your movement is even going with this. Next up, the spinorama goal. This is, again, something you can do on a 2-on-1 if your opponent is just playing the passing lane. This works even better on the backhand than the forehand. And this one also works around the defender if they're trying to get the puck from you. Next up, these backskating shots. Usually far side, but again, the goal is played this a little weird sometimes, and sometimes the short side opens up. I'm not exactly sure how to explain it, so you're just gonna have to figure out which way to shoot it. Most of the time it is far side though. And lastly, the behind the net pass. Whenever you see your player like right there next to the post, you can try to go for it. Don't force it too much, it's not as good as in past NHLs, but it still works if your player is like right there next to the post. That's the video, thank you for watching.